Today I'm going to talk to you about the psychological foundations of curriculum making. The curriculum decision making process cannot be undertaken effectively without psychological considerations. Psychology is concerned with the question of how people learn, and curriculum specialists are interested in knowing how psychology can contribute to the design and delivery of curriculum. Both psychologists and curriculum specialists are concerned with: why do learners respond as they do to teachers' efforts? How do cultural experiences affect students' learning? How should curriculum be organized to enhance learning? What impact does the school culture have on students' learning? What is the optimal level of student participation in learning the curriculum's various contents? The importance of psychology foundation. Teaching the curriculum and learning it are directly related, and psychology binds the relationship. This field carries theories and principles of learning that influence student teacher behavior within the context of curriculum. It gives us the basis for how the individual learner interacts with objects and persons. Psychology gives us a glimpse of how learning takes place. There are, there are several major schools of thought: cognitive psychology, which studies mental processes; behaviorism, which focuses on observable behavior; and humanistic psychology, which focuses on individual free will. Behaviorism represents traditional psychology, and there are several main theories of thought. Law of effect states that connections between situations and responses strengthen or weaken connections. Classical conditioning, where learned reactions to stimuli cause behaviors, and the closer a stimuli to a response, the stronger the bond. Operant conditioning, consequences of a response determine the probability of it being repeated. Observational learning, behavior is learned through observation and modeling. And hierarchical learning, where behaviors are based on prerequisite conditions and cumulative stages of learning. Cognitive psychology is the study of internal mental processes. The main theories of thought in cognitive psychology are structured play, which is an emphasis on visual and auditory activities; cognitive stages of development. There are four cognitive stages for progressive mental operations: theory of language and cultural transmission, which says that learning involves human and cultural development; structure of a subject, children learning how things are related and using inquiry discovery methods; nine multiple intelligences, stating that different students excel in different areas; 120 potential cognitive processes, which are three-dimensional structure of intellect; critical thinking, the art of teaching students how to think; and malleability of intelligence, which states that intelligence can be modified and improved. Humanistic psychology recognizes humans as unique beings and emphasizes the study of the whole person. The main theories of thought in humanistic psychology are Gestalt theory, where learning is explained in terms of the whole problem. Gestalt means shape, form, and configuration. Stimuli are perceived in relation to other stimuli within the field. Human needs. There are six human needs arranged in a hierarchy. Striving to meet needs directs behavior. Freedom to learn. Learning requires freedom and courage to be open, self-trusting, and self-accepting. Social and emotional learning. Success depends on awareness and understanding of emotions, both of self and of others. And positive psychology and well-being. Well-being is based on cultivating talent, building relationships, and feeling pleasure. There are several influential theorists in the field of behavioral psychology. Edward Thorndike is remembered as the founder of behavioral psychology. Thorndike's law of readiness states that when a conduction unit is ready to conduct, conduction is satisfying, and lack of conduction is annoying. He suggests that when the nervous system is ready to conduct, it leads to a satisfying state of affairs. The law of exercise states a connection is strengthened in proportion to its frequency and its average intensity and duration. The law of exercise provides justification for drill, repetition, and review, and it's best illustrated by behavior modification and basic skill instructional approaches. The law of effect explains that responses accompanied by satisfaction strengthen the connection. Responses accompanied by discomfort weaken the connection. B. Frederick Skinner, another important behavioral theorist, says there are two kinds of responses: elicited, which is a response identified with a definite stimulus, and emitted, response unrelated to an identifiable stimulus. When a response is elicited, the behavior is respondent. When it is emitted, the behavior is operant. No observable or measurable stimuli explain the response's appearance. There are many influential cognitive psychologists. Jean Piaget developed the most comprehensive theory of cognitive development stages. Cognitive development occurs in stages from birth to maturity. There is the sensory-motor stage from birth to age 2, preoperational stage, ages 2 to 7, concrete operation stage, ages 7 to 11, formal operation stage, ages 11 and up. Howard Gardner expanded the concept of what intelligence is and described it as cross-cultural. Gardner identified areas as linguistics, music, logical mathematical, spatial, body kinesthetic, and personal. Maria Montessori looked at instructional methods based on rational, scientific approach from the cognitive perspective. She claimed that appropriate learning experiences should be built around a structured classroom environment rather than a teacher-planned environment. Montessori emphasized looking and listening, and she was a cognitive developmentalist first and a progressive educator second. Benjamin Bloom claimed that from birth to age 4, children develop 50% of their potential intelligence. Most educators today are very familiar with Bloom's taxonomy. Lev Vygotsky studied social origins and cultural bases of individual development. The humanistic theorists are Abraham Maslow, who identified 6 human needs that's related to survival and psychological well-being. Carl Rogers says that reality is based on what the individual learner perceives. And Daniel Goleman said that students' feelings colors their view of a topic, including their willingness to consider evidence. Emotions can drive action, especially in young children. Maslow is most well known for identifying a hierarchy of needs. There are currently 6 levels, although this diagram only shows 5. Physiological, which are survival needs and those necessary to maintain life. Safety, those necessary for routine and the avoidance of danger. Love and belonging, those related to affectionate relations with people in general and to a place in the group. Esteem needs, those related to receiving recognition as a worthwhile person. The one that's not in this chart is knowing and understanding needs. There's more evidence of this in people of high intelligence, and it's a desire to learn and organize intellectual and social relationships. And finally, self-actualization needs, those related to becoming the best person one can be, to developing one's fullest potential. There are many implications and influences of psychology in curriculum development. Behaviorism continues to be widely used in curriculum development. Behaviorist curriculum is often objective based, with strong connections to diagnostic, formative, and summative information. Small incremental learning activities that build on previous learning experiences guide behaviorist curriculum. Therefore, behaviorists advocate for creating a curriculum with embedded assessment tasks that make it easy to quantify the degree to which students are able to achieve specified learning behaviors as dictated by the curriculum. Behaviorism is having strong influences within the development of online learning technologies and curriculum development. Programs are divided into small tasks organized by objectives that are regularly monitored through assessment tasks. Many behaviorists worry that an authentic environment is harder to establish within online environments, which is spurring a rise in educational technologies that help connect teachers and learners. New technologies also impact curricular decisions. For example, synchronous feedback from instructors allows for positive and negative reinforcements to be implemented easily. Since cognitive psychology's primary motivations are centered around understanding the fundamentals of learning, or how knowledge is structured and organized by learners, curriculum developed using this approach tends to be interactional and focused on memory or knowledge retrieval strategies. Research done by cognitive psychologists has emphasized memory retrieval practices, particularly those involving practice tests and the degree to which memory retrieval practices are transferable to other disciplines. Implications for curriculum also center around how thinking skills are presented within the curriculum. While many teachers and curricularists use Bloom's taxonomy to infuse higher order thinking into lessons, curriculum developers should avoid sending the message that all thinking is sequential, moving from basic to more advanced thinking in a prescribed, ordered pattern. Authors of Making Thinking Visible argue that understanding isn't a type of thinking, but rather the goal of thinking. They argue that types of curriculum models, such as understanding by design, help teachers focus on understanding. Some theorists caution that while most curricularists and teachers are trained and understand cognitive learning strategies, too much emphasis continues to be placed on rote memorization of facts and knowledge in most classroom settings, as opposed to deep understanding through a curriculum focused on connections. Some argue that most teachers do not have access to research into well researched learning strategies and advocate for greater pedagogical strategies being supplied to teachers through inclusion within curricular materials. One impact that humanistic psychology has on curriculum is the need for differentiation. This is suggested by Maslow's desire to place elements of being human, such as desire for choice and individual understandings of what constitutes self realization, at the center of learning. Finding ways to incorporate personal experiences and connections into the learning process has also been an important result of humanistic psychologists. Ornstein and Hunkins made the point that the concept of learning being a process as opposed to one in which completed products matching prescribed objectives is in itself a contribution from humanistic psychology. The impact of social emotional learning, particularly the emphasis on intra and interpersonal relationships, and the idea that learning is tied to emotion, has impacted curriculum development as it strives to move beyond a strict focus on rationalistic, logical displays of learning. Psychology has interrelationships with other areas. Vygotsky had clear beliefs about the implications differing foundational areas have on curriculum. Cultural and psychological functions must be considered in historical context. Cultural and human action evolve over time, and as the mind changes, so does cognitive processing. When asking the question, what purposes should the curriculum serve? The psychological foundation of curriculum states that the behaviorist point of view is that curriculum should present procedures to increase the likelihood that each student will find learning relevant and enjoyable. Subject matter should be organized and structured so the student can master the subject matter. Cognitive psychologists believe curriculum should present a logical method for organizing and interpreting learning. Approaches rooted in the tradition of subject matter. And humanistic psychologists believe that curriculum is not prescribed. The learner draws on those experiences, subject matter, and the intellectual skills necessary to attain full potential. The questions of how should knowledge be selected into the curriculum, who should decide which knowledge is most worth teaching and learning, and what is the relationship between the teacher and the knowledge selection process. Behaviorists believe that the teacher should determine which knowledge will create an appropriate amount of tension and reward to facilitate a response to a learning cue. The teacher should determine which learning experiences will cause a state of motivation to occur within a learner. The teacher's relationship with the knowledge selection process is one of high involvement. The teacher determines what actions and learning experiences will have the greatest likelihood of creating understanding through careful selection of practices, drills, and opportunities for feedback that will most likely elicit desired responses from students. The cognitive psychologists believe that the educator's role is the shaping of actual experience by environmental conditions. They believe in assimilation, which is the incorporation of new experiences into existing ones, and accommodation, which is the child's existing cognitive structures are modified and adapted in response to the environment. Equilibration is the process of balancing what is already understood with what has yet to be understood. And the humanistic, particularly Carl Rogers, says that the teacher's role is non directive teaching and should serve more as a facilitator and guide students in growth and development. Teachers help students explore new ideas about their lives, and students are responsible for their own behavior and learning. What is the nature of students in the learning process, and how does it suggest teachers should organize learning experiences and relationships? Behaviorists recognize that cognitive processes partially explain aspects of learning. Remediation, skill acquisition, matching instructional materials to learners' ability, step by step activities, repetition, practice, drill reinforcement, and review are just a few. Cognitive psychologists know that sensory impressions should enhance a child's visual and auditory discrimination. Learning occurs in an atmosphere of emotional security. Mental operations are sequential and focus on environmental experiences. Organizing curricula and teaching new experiences so they are compatible with existing experiences, and thinking of the spiral curriculum. And humanistic psychologists think that curriculum is concerned with process, not products, personal needs, not subject matter, psychological meaning, not cognitive scores, and changing environments, not predetermined environments. Learners draw on experiences, subject matter, and intellectual skills necessary to attain full potential. What is the purpose of curriculum evaluation? How should curriculum be evaluated? And to whom is curriculum evaluation accountable? After examining the theories of behaviorism, cognitive psychology, and humanistic psychology, we have decided to suggest one purpose, manner of evaluation, and possible audience to which members of each field would advocate curriculum evaluation be accountable to. In behavioralism, since step by step procedures for learning are carefully aligned to desired behavioral outcomes, behavioralists may believe that the purpose of curriculum evaluation is to determine whether specific learning objectives facilitate types of desired learning. They would most likely want to see quantifiable evidence of objective mastery through test scores and other types of numerical data. Curricularists advocating for the use of cognitive psychology within learning materials may argue that evaluation should provide insight into how curriculum improves memory and opportunities to access previously explored concepts and ideas, and would want to use a variety of qualitative and quantitative data, possibly gathered during a needs analysis to evaluate the overall efficiency of a particular curriculum. Those in favor of a humanistic approach would most likely wish to ascertain the holistic needs of learners, both socially and emotionally, in order to establish what types of learning could occur within a specific type of curriculum. These are the references that we use for this presentation. And I am Kimberly Gore. I worked on major theorists and their work for for central curriculum questions, the script, and this presentation. Sarah Hansen did the major schools theories of thought. She provided our initial setup and the handout. Michael Hagan did the purpose of curriculum evaluation and the implications of different theories of learning. And Alveda Smith did the descriptions and explanations of key issues, concerns, and trends. Thank you for listening. We hope you learned a lot.